Yo, this is Terrence Gaines, aka Brother Tech,
And this is Nika Montford, aka Tech Savvy Diva.
and you're listening to the snobOS podcast, the podcast for Apple snobs, where we talk all things Apple and then some. So, if you're listening to the podcast, we want to say thank you for listening. But this week, going forward, we're trying to think a little bit different. We are going to video, so we'll probably upload this to. You're probably watching it on YouTube. If you are a Patreon, you can actually watch the show as we tape it. We've added that, so we're moving on up, stepping on up a little bit.
Yeah.
So we've added the ability to support the show via Patreon. So we'll make sure we put a link in the show notes. You can go to patreon.com/snobOScast, and for $5 a month, like I mentioned, you get access to the live show. You get access to the pre-show. So before we actually record for the podcast, we'll do like a little pre-show where we talk about things, get caught up, anything that's on our mind, we want to chat. You'll get access to that. And you'll get access to our Discord chat to where we'll talk about the show live. If you want to chat about what's going on as we tape the show, if you want to give us ideas for topics you want to see on the show, or if you just want to chat about technology in general, you'll have access to the Discord chat for that. All for $5 a month. Or if you want to give us a little bit more than $5, that's just the floor. If you want to tip in a little bit more, you can definitely do that. So we definitely want to say thank you to all the current Patreons. We actually have a couple. We just loaded it up a couple days ago, and boom, we already got some Discord Patreons. We want to, I guess we'll call them snobists. I think
Snobbist.
I think we'll have to workshop that. But if you like it, let us know. But we want to thank all of our snobists who are Discord Patreon followers right now. So we want to say thank you to Charles Hall. We want to say thank you to Tom Merritt and the folks over at the Daily Tech News Show. They had us on as guests a couple weeks ago, so they kind of motivated us to kind of get our stuff together as
Step
far
our
as
game up a little bit.
because when they set up, it's like, oh, we slipping, so we need we need to catch up. So we're trying to step our game up a little bit. So we want to say thanks to Tom Merritt and folks over at DTNS, and we want to say thank you to Ryan Walden. So we want to say thank you to all of those Patreon. So definitely appreciate if you love the show, if you support the show, you can follow us, like us, subscribe, and now you can donate. So we want to say thank you to that. So now we want to actually move into the actual show. So this part of the show, we call it the lowdown, where we talk all things Apple. This first one, we kind of talked about it a little bit in iOS 14 in WWDC when Apple announced iOS 14, but I kind of want to reiterate it a little bit more because it's important. As it relates to security, as it relates to passwords. If you're using a password manager, that's great. A lot of people are still writing passwords on notepads. They are using the same one password for a lot of different things. And one of the features in iOS now, in iOS 14, that when it's announced and it's available, it will offer new security recommendations section that will advise you of potential security risks. So if you're using Apple's iCloud keychain and you're using that to kind of save your passwords, but you're using the same password for a lot of the websites. Once you go to a website and Apple's iCloud keychain recognizes that you have a password for that, or if you have a weak password, or if you have a password that is commonly used, like password 1234, millions of people use that. This new security feature will say, hey, you might want to take a look at this, and it makes it easier for you to then go in and change that password, update it, and it'll also let you know if this website has security threats. So if it's been hacked or if it's been reported that there are issues as it relates to data on this site, iOS 14 has those security recommendations that will give you the heads up, and then you can actually go forward and change that. So I thought that was a cool thing to actually share, because that's, again, like I said, I'm a security guy, and in addition to that, I do a lot of support. And one of the main things to get people set up and get them working right is trying to figure out what their passwords are. And then when they forget them, you got to send the email to forgot your password. And it's the whole thing. So,
Or I think we both use LastPass. They
right.
have a password generator. You could just copy and pop it in there. Life's simple. Save it to your keychain. Whenever you log in, it's already there.
Yep. So definitely check that out. If you are, well, I would suggest you before iOS 14, kind of come up with a better password game. But if you want to, Definitely use iCloud Keychain. It's free, especially if you use an iPhone, especially if you use a Mac, especially if you use an iPad. If you're already in the Apple ecosystem, you
Use the tools.
might as well use the free tool. And when
Yeah.
iOS 14 comes out, it'll be more pronounced as the security measures that you can take to lock down your passwords even more. So just wanted to put
Yeah.
that out there. All right.
Yeah, especially since they're making it so easy for you. And, it's almost dummy proof
Right.
at this point. So take advantage.
Yep. So the next topic we have on Apple is Apple is testing the idea or the process of making Apple Pay payments with QR codes or traditional barcodes. So for those who can remember, QR codes was the it thing like
Hmm.
2010,
Hmm.
2012. Everybody thought that was a new wave, especially because folks overseas, like in China, in Japan, some of these places have been using QR codes all for this whole time, but it never
Hmm.
really caught on in the United States. Some businesses use them. I had them on my business card for a while, but it never really took off, right? So
Hmm.
now Apple's now getting in the
Trying to
game.
bring it back, bring it back.
Right, and the way they're gonna try to implement it is via Apple Pay. So if you do access Apple Pay and you go somewhere like to your barber or to your hairstylist or to a street vendor like a food truck, and they've got the little barcode to where you can actually scan the barcode with Apple Pay, go through the process of entering whatever the charge is, enter a tip or whatever the case may be. Boom, bang, you're done. And hopefully, like the whole point of it is maybe Apple getting into the game of using QR codes. Maybe that will revive the QR code thing here in the United States to where more people will actually use it, especially now that we're on this note, less contact to where
No
right,
touching.
we don't want to
Yeah.
touch anything. So if I order a cheeseburger at a food truck and they print out a barcode, I can scan the barcode with my phone. It pops up in Apple Pay, lets me select my credit card, lets me pay it. I don't have to touch anything, and it's easier. And I don't have to carry
Yeah, and
cash.
it's more helpful for small businesses as well because they don't all have the budget to buy the sensors, the kind of tap and go that we have now with any of the other Apple Pay, Google Pay, so any of those other you know um, systems that you can just kind of tap when you go to Target or grocery store, gas station, whatever the case may be, and you get the kind of tap in and pay type of deal. I think it gives more easier access for smaller businesses to be able to utilize the whole no contact and the system without having to pay for the additional hardware to integrate it.
Yep. So where they found this was of course, in the betas, the deep hidden, buried deep down in the iOS 14 code for the betas that's going out. All the developers are, trying out the beta, testing it out, and trying to develop apps, and to the new iOS 14 that's announced. So that's where they found it. So it's not far of a stretch to say, look forward to being able to pay for things using Apple Pay and QR codes. So definitely look forward to that. The next story I got, Apple stores in Melbourne, Australia, got to close back down
Shut them back down.
because people don't act right and the numbers are spiking up. So, and this story we found on 9 to 5 Mac. It's like the Melbourne, Australia. Apple is reclosing all of its stores in the greater Melbourne area of Australia as portions of the state of Victoria prepare to enforce new lockdown measures. Australia has reported a growing number of COVID-19 infections over the past several weeks and is reimposing travel and business restrictions as a preventative measure. So, in addition to the spikes going back up, they're not even playing around. They're not saying, oh, we're thinking about it. They're not saying, oh, well, we'll leave it up to the states. No, they're not saying, all the things that are typical in the United States. Australia is like, look, the numbers starting to spike up, so we shutting everything down. And of course, Apple is one of the victims of that. So, according to the story, Melbourne's lockdown is expected to last 6 weeks. All travel outside the home will be prohibited, with the exception of essential services like groceries and healthcare. The order goes in effect midnight on July 8th, which was today. So, well, yesterday if you're watching this, later on this week. But as of midnight Wednesday, Melbourne, Australia, and Apple stores within Melbourne, Australia are now closed back down on lockdown due to spikes in COVID-19 infections. All right. So the last story we have for the lowdown is I haven't heard about this. I don't know if they announced it when they announced the Apple Card, but Apple has a program called Path that if you applied for an Apple credit card and got declined, you have the option to join Apple's Path program to where they will help you fix your credit so you can later apply for and get approved for the Apple Card. So basically, the way it works is if you're declined for an Apple credit card, you'll get a message to opt into this Path program. Goldman Sachs, who actually runs the credit portion, the bank portion of the Apple Card, that will review your financial information to determine if you qualify. So if you got declined for an Apple Card, it's not guaranteed you'll get into this Path program, but they'll review your information to see if you qualify. If you do qualify, the duration of the program lasts about 4 months. During the 4 months, Path will monitor your credit history, things like, paying if you're paying your credit card bills on time, if you're paying any sort of charges or fees on time, if you have any sort of outstanding loans, if you're paying those on time, this Path program will monitor that stuff. If you During the 4 months, if you are not opening up new lines of credit, so you're not going out and trying to apply for other credit cards or other lines of credit, if you do your due diligence, stay within the finances you have, at the end of those 4 months, Apple and Goldman Sachs will invite you to reapply for the Apple Card with a greater chance to be approved. Now, again, if you're not following the instructions within those 4 months, like if you're trying to open up other credit cards and you're delinquent on some of your payments, there's a good chance that you won't be approved the second time. But if you follow all the instructions, go along with the program for the 4 months, there's a greater chance you'll be reapproved again for the Apple Card. So I just want to put that out there. I hadn't heard about that before. So
I hadn't either.
yeah.
I didn't. Is this? I was thinking this was new. Maybe it's not.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the show notes. But yeah, basically, like I said, they didn't announce it. It wasn't an official thing. But yeah, it's good for Apple, to
Yeah.
actually do more than just issue credit that you can mess up your credit with. They're
Yeah.
actually giving you, I guess, they're making it easier for you to get credit so you can mess it up.
Right. They're giving you the chance to
Right.
join the number. And once you're in there, it's kind of up to you to
Right.
figure it out after that.
But hopefully, some of those good habits that you
Hopefully sticking to that for 4
Right.
months will allow you to say, oh, so if I do this, then I get more credit. And if I continue to do this, because I'm assuming they'll probably give them a fairly low
credit limit.
credit limit.
I don't know how that
And
works.
yeah, I'm not sure, but I would assume they wouldn't give them $50,000,
Right.
Credit line at Apple. But, to say that, if I continue to do this, I can, apply for, what do you call it, an increase or whatever
Right.
to get more credit if I continue this road. So I think it's a good thing.
Yep. So shout out to Apple for doing that. I think that's it for the lowdown this week. Now we'll move into the second part of the show called The Second String, where we talk all things tech in general. So I wanted to do this show for Nika and all the single folks out there who may or may not be using, online dating services like Tinder. Well, speaking of Tinder, actually one of the newer features for Tinder is they're doing a video chat feature called Face to Face. Right now, it's just a test. I don't know if it's beta. I don't know if it's public. You ain't gonna catch me trying to test it.
You don't want to
out.
read too hard into it.
I know. I'm not doing download Tinder. I ain't gonna create no profile just to test it for snobOS. I don't want nothing to get back. So I'll just
keep a happy home.
Right. I will assume that this is a test that they're trying out with certain people within Tinder, but basically
it's test 13 countries.
Right. So there doesn't require people to exchange private phone numbers, and is rolling out as a test in 13 countries, including U.S. Including the cities in the U.S. States: Virginia, Illinois, Georgia, Colorado, as well as Australia, Brazil, and France. Face-to-face differs from other video chat features in a few ways. For one, both have to opt in to make the call, opt into the feature to make it happen. Once they tap the video icon on the right-hand corner of the text chat stream, they'll be prompted to opt into video calls with the other person. After they and their match do so, they'll be able to make the call. They can opt out at any time. So other things are, before calling, both people have to agree to keep it PG. That means no nudity, no sexual content, no references to hate speech, violence, or illegal activities, which if they got people, I don't know how they're going to be able to avoid that. I guess
Or how they're going to even monitor
well, I
that.
guess, if I'm on a chat with somebody and they decide to do something illicit or whatever the case may be, I just end the chat and then they have nobody to continue to stream with. So I guess that kind of cuts that out. But ahead of the
Unless
chat,
the other person wants to be in on it
right?
or wants to see what's going on.
And then now you got a whole another problem on your hands. And then again, that's why it's a test, because I can see
Yeah.
this going left real fast.
This could go. They're not hooking up on Tinder to find a date. They're on Tinder to do some,
Well, I don't know.
some deals.
Like I said,
I don't know. But the thing is, it opens up the opportunity for some illicit activity. So.
Right.
And maybe that's what they're trying to flesh out during this process.
Right. Or, you can avoid, I would assume you can avoid those. They look good on paper, but when you meet them in person, then that's a whole nother thing. This is kind of like,
Catfishing.
right. So this is kind of like the intermediate, to where they look good on paper on a profile. You get to meet them.
Or they stole somebody else's picture.
Right. You can chat with them in person.
Yeah.
I mean, virtually in person, to kind of see if you want to take it a step further. So,
right.
I'll read a little bit more about the feature. Once video call ends, each person is prompted to answer whether they would want to have a call again, and also given the opportunity to report something if they did something inappropriate. That said, the team says it has no intention of recording calls. So if someone is reported, the team seemingly wouldn't be able to revisit the offending content. The team says is going to lean heavily toward trusting user reports and what they say happened. So, that, depending on, who's reporting, who's being reported, that could be a whole nother thing there. So all that to say, with the whole coronavirus, with the whole lockdown, everybody is trying to find new ways to interact. So it makes sense for something like Tinder, online dating, to get virtual as well, because everybody still wants to socialize, but you can't in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So the next story I wanted to put out there, Samsung is looking into not shipping chargers with their phones as well. So, yeah, right. So, yeah, so we talked about this as one of the rumors in a previous show, to where it was a rumor that Apple won't be shipping the power bricks that come along with the iPhone, and just the cable, or maybe even not the cable. We assumed that they would ship the cable but wouldn't ship the power brick, the actual part that you plug into the wall. So it looks like Samsung is rumored to do the same. So according to a ET News report, and we'll make sure we put the link in the show notes, which cites industry sources, the reason being is behind the move is the fact that most users already have a USB-C charger laying around. It would also save Samsung some money, offsetting some of the additional costs of pricey 5G components that are becoming the standard on new phones. The report claims Samsung is talking to partners to how exactly it should go about the move, and is likely to affect companies that supply the chargers for Samsung. It's also likely that Samsung will initially drop the charger from certain models only. So maybe they'll offer a with charger part, and then they'll offer a non-charger part, or product rather, and maybe there'll be a price difference of maybe $10 or $15, depending on how they determine the cost is to make and package that charger part. So,
or they may sell it as an accessory in their store. So if you want to order it separately, you can, but it won't come native. It won't come in the original packaging.
Yeah, I could see both Samsung and Apple offering an option to get the phone with the charger and get the phone without the charger. And then, like you said, if you have a change of heart and later find out you need one, they'll make those easily available. But it makes perfect sense.
It
it makes
does.
sense to offer without and let me choose, because I would definitely choose without, because I got 50 million thousand things laying around. If I could
Exactly.
save $15, and possibly,
Saving
yeah,
it.
yeah, I'd save it, because they're already expensive as is. Yeah,
Exactly.
so it was just cool that it's not it was a crazy thought when Apple did it, but now other people are thinking about it as well. It's like, maybe not so crazy.
Right.
All right. So the last story in second stream is we talked about this last week. The data platform Streamlytics raises over $1 million in just 7 days via crowdfunding. So that was just a cool story, because it's a black owned, woman owned startup that, we don't actually know the behind the scenes story, but we all know that it is tough for minorities, African Americans, brown and black folks to get the same sort of access to capital that other startups do.
Hmm.
So the fact that there are options and there's alternatives versus going the traditional route of, I don't want to call it begging, but in a sense you are trying to beg these VCs and these big tech campaign funds, to where you
Hmm.
don't have to. There's another option, and the fact that she put it out, because according to the story that I'll put, and I actually had to put a better link because this one's kind of messed up. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
according to the
punk.
story I read, people had been badgering her to how can they invest, how can they fund in her
Hmm.
platform,
How can they
right? How can they
support?
support, right? And so after weeks and weeks, maybe even throughout the course of a year, she finally said, fine, let
Fine, I
let
relent.
me put this out there. And she put it out on Start Engine, which is a popular platform for startups to get funding for their projects, whether it be tech or whatever the case may be. And it's just amazing that within a little over a week, not only did she meet her funding goal, which I think at the time, it was like a couple 100,000. Um,
Yeah, when we talked about it on Wednesday, last Wednesday, she was at about
and
860,000. And I think that was like 4 or 5
right.
days
So,
in. And I went, because I know you said that you
hmm
invested. I went that next day, that
hmm
afternoon to invest, and it was closed. So there's a wait list. And I was like, dang it. I should have did it that night. But I was like, oh no, I can do it in the morning. But by the time I logged in to do it, it was done. So they have a wait list. So I don't know if she's going to extend it or open it up
hmm
some more, because the campaign itself was 83
right.
days. And so in, not even uh, a tenth of the time, she met her
Right.
goal. So it's fantastic from that perspective. But for those of us who were a little bit slower, I mean, I won't even say slower. It's just one of those things where you kind of have to.
hmm
When I saw it in the show, I should just went ahead and
Right.
did it instead of saying, "Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I got a lot of stuff going on, so I'll do it first thing in the morning." But when I logged in that morning, what that Thursday
hmm
morning was maybe around 11
Wow.
o'clock. It was
Yeah.
done.
So I mean,
So she raised an additional two hundred
yep,
thousand from what Wednesday night to
yep.
Thursday
And
morning.
I'd have to look at the details, but I think I don't know. Of course, at the time of recording, there still may be some opportunity, like you meant, like you are, to get on the wait list. But between us recording the show and it actually being published, by the time people are actually listening to
Who
this,
knows?
all that might be shut down as well. So it was one of those things to where it caught fire and it spread, and
Word of mouth,
in
really.
addition to, in the midst of all of this, black people trying to figure out how they can support each other throughout all
Support.
the
Mhm.
protests and all of the we've seen all these different type of, we talked about them before on the show, these different type of boycotts and different economic things that black folks are trying to actually support each other. This kind of like just hit at that time to where we're all kind of hip to this idea of maybe we need to do something different in order to support each other, and then boom, it just took off.
Yeah.
So
So I mean, it's
yep,
fantastic for her. And I think I saw on Twitter she was just like she was so overwhelmed, with the support. And I just think it's
yep.
fantastic.
So I'll keep you posted. I'm consider myself an insider now. So she on the platform to thank the investors. She's supposed to do some sort of virtual sort of, in person kind of
Mhm.
thank you. So, we got dates for that. So I'll keep y'all posted.
Yeah, since you're in
Right.
the club,
So,
I'm trying to get in. I'm
right.
standing outside the club,
Trying to
and I
stand
can't even
outside.
get
Can't even
in.
get in.
I could have shot myself in the foot when I
Right.
logged in on Thursday. And I was like, dang it, I should
Right.
have did it Wednesday night after we got finished
Yep. Yep.
recording.
So,
But
yep.
lesson
So shout
learned.
out to Angela Benton. Shout out to Streamlytics for their goals. So we're definitely interesting. Looking forward to seeing the rise. Because like you said, everybody's looking to get in. What's that next Facebook? What's that next Google? What's that next Apple? So this may be our next big thing that a lot of people got in
Yeah,
on the ground floor. Now we're able to benefit or just support. Like whether you got
yep,
in on the front end or you're actually a user, or whatever the case may be. All right,
right.
so that is it for second string. Now we want to move into for the culture, where we talk all things social media, anything that's just important to us as it relates to what we want to talk about. And what we want to talk about is Georgia, specifically, is out here tripping. I don't know if you saw this, but there over the weekend there was some sort of pool party inside. Yeah, so if,
Compound.
for those who are
Oh,
not familiar
compound.
with Atlanta, I remember the compound all the way back during the Freaknik times when for in college we used to drive down to Atlanta, and one of the places you had to go was the compound because that's where all the stuff was happening. So they have stood the test of time from Freaknik on to COVID-19 now, to where over the weekend some promoter uh, built or installed some temporary
A
pool
pool.
inside the club in this hot, condensed area, people scantily clad with COVID all over the place. They are in the club, in the pool, hunching on each
Just a
other.
cesspool. Just a
Yeah.
cesspool. Blah.
So I don't know what it is about people getting antsy and, what's going on. Georgia kind of opened back up a little bit, but not this much to where,
You can't give people anything. You can't give them the smallest opening because they're just gonna kick the door
mhm.
in and everybody's
Yeah,
coming
so
in.
let me read this from the actual story here. A promoter, and we'll just remit their name, set up shop at Compound Night Spot and thought that building a pool in the spot and having people live their best party life was a good idea. Then there's the fact that there were plenty of willing participants to come down in their bathing suits, carry on like there was potentially no fatal virus floating around the globe. So
Like we're not in the
I
middle of
don't
a
know.
pandemic.
Again, I don't know what it is, but it's just, and then these videos, they've got Instagram videos, and
Oh,
it's nobody's got a mask. How can you wear a mask? You're in the pool. Who what?
they're not thinking about no mask. They are thinking about, oh, it's compound. It's a Friday night, Saturday night, whatever night it was. Let's go and get it in. And that's what they
I mean,
did
yeah,
all the
and
way
these and they,
in.
like I said, I was watching.
These video
I
clips are
mean, it's
just
like
like it gives me the
yeah, it's just like
heebie-jeebies.
Jamaica, and this is not. I mean, again, Atlanta is compound is not the first place to do this. We've seen stories upon stories of people crowd over the weekend specific because it was 4th of July weekend. People crammed into Lake Michigan. I think they have a popular spot up there somewhere to where this is big, kind of like beach type setting in Michigan, to where all these people were crammed into the beach. And you got all these stories in Arizona and all these places. So Atlanta is not the first place, but of course we extra with it.
But we extra, and the difference is at the lake, at the pool, at
It's
the
outside,
beach, it's
right?
outside. And compound, it's a nice sized club, but it's not sprawling and it's a club. So there are no windows. It's like just a
And according to
box.
the latest stories about coronavirus, people are suggesting that it's airborne. So all that corona is floating through the ventilation system and all down into people's bikinis and all down into the pool. Yuck.
Oh God. I just it just really just kind of grosses
Yeah.
me out that they are just really out here like this and thinking it's okay.
Yeah.
Ugh, I don't know. It's
Right.
yikes.
So speaking of Atlanta,
Mm.
Our mayor, Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, hopefully she didn't get it from the compound. I hope hope she wasn't there incognito. But according to the story that I'm reading, she and a couple of members of her family have contracted or tested positive for COVID-19. And of course, now
Hmm.
she's went and put out a statement, saying it's hit home, to where her family's got it. But the story that I'm reading is um, not only did she contract COVID 19, but she held a press conference while she was awaiting the test results of whether or not she had tested positive or not.
Now she came back and said that
Okay,
wasn't true.
okay. So yeah,
Yeah.
so break it down for me because the story I read. Okay,
So what she said, because she put it on Instagram. She said, "Let's be clear." I'm paraphrasing because I don't have it in front of me. She was like, "Let's be clear." She took the test after that
okay,
press
okay.
conference. And so what it seemed like, she took two tests. She took one test and hadn't gotten the results. Then she took another test, and by the time she got the test results from the first test, she had already gotten the second test results. So the last test that they did, that revealed that she had it, and I think her husband and one of her
Hmm.
children had it. But when she took the first test, I think she was the only one that had it. But the results from the first test took like 8 days or something like that. So she got two sets of test results back near the same time, which in itself is an issue that it was taking that long for her to get the results back. But so that essentially three of her family members
Right.
have it
So,
now.
we all looked to Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms throughout the whole, Black Lives Matter protest, the George Floyd protest. She was one of the people out in the forefront when I can't think of the gentleman's name. A guy got shot in Atlanta at the Wendy. Rashard
Rashad
Brooks
Brooks.
got, she was in the forefront of that. She removed the police chief, and she's like our she's like our mom or auntie, for lack of a better term, right?
Yeah, and honestly, she was one of the ones who was a huge proponent of shutting
Right.
things down and
Right.
wearing masks. So what it really says to me is, if she is following the science, is well aware of the science, and are following the
Hmm.
protocols, and she
Right.
still got it, that's really
Imagine you can
scary.
get it if you're going to a club and you swimming in a pool hunched up on a whole bunch of people. You can get it too.
In close proximity, yelling and
They're
drinking,
breathing, sweating.
breathing on each other. Ugh, just spores
Yeah.
just
So
everywhere.
anyway, our
So
prayers, hopefully
prayers up for the mayor
yeah,
and her
hopefully,
family.
it's not one of those serious cases to where, heaven forbid, she's put on a respirator for weeks and months on end. Or, I've seen stories about people, permanently getting asthma as it relates to this. So I've seen stories where people are going to experience long term, issues, right,
Health
as it relates
issues,
to
yeah.
just contracting it. Not the people with the predetermined issues like high blood pressure, or if you already had weak immune system or weak respiratory system. We're talking about fully blown healthy people contracting COVID-19, and then going forward for the rest of their lives will have some sort of health issues. So I don't know what's going on with people, but that's enough to be like, you know what? As for me and my house, we staying in the house, But some people, I guess they gotta. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
I guess they gotta wait until they get sick and then they come back. Oh, you gotta wear your mask. You gotta follow the rules because now I
And
have COVID. But before you had it, you were just out there
and
just
gave it
wilding
to
out
other people
and
because
gave
that's
it
the
to other
thing.
people. And those other people took it home to their
I couldn't have that
families.
on my conscience as a parent. Like I said, going back to what we were talking about in the pre-show, as a parent, I can't have that on my conscience to send my kids out in the world and they contract it or come back and give it to me. So
Hmm.
I don't understand how people can, you know, not just say it. If I ain't got it, I'm fine. It's like, where's our sense of community? Yeah,
Empathy for our fellow
yeah.
man. I think that's in some instances for this pandemic, it's shown a great sensibility and a great, common bond of the human race. And at the same time, it's really shown how selfish that some people really are and how they just don't care about anything other than, going out there and having a good time for themselves. So it's a paradigm because it's on two sides of the same coin, as they
Mhm.
say. You have humanity and people, taking care of each other, helping each other. And at the other side is people is like, well, I ain't got it, so I'm
Yeah,
fine. Or I'm young, so it won't do, too much harm for
yeah.
me.
So I don't know. We'll get through it one way or another, I suppose. But like I said, me and my family, we gonna do it from inside this house. All
Yeah.
right. Well, that is nope. That's not it. We got another story.
Oh,
Your boy
your
Kanye
boy.
West has decided he's going to legitimately, officially throw his hat in the ring to run for president. Forget the fact that it's
Under the birthday
right, but yeah, that's
party.
what I saw that recently. He's going to call it his new. He was responding to criticism that he's going to, he's going to split the vote amongst the Democrats. Although he mentioned, you know, Joe Biden, he's not anybody special, according to the quote. Donald Trump is special. Kanye West is special. This is his quotes. you know, um, Obama. Obama. And I'll read the actual quote instead of me paraphrasing. And this is a story in CNN, right? Um, uh, to say the black vote is democratic is a form of racism and white supremacy. We'll let that. We'll talk about that's another one, but I'll continue. I'm not saying Trump in. I'm not saying Trump's in my way. He may be a part of my way. And Joe Biden? Question mark. Come on, like man, please. Obama's special. Trump is special. Kanye West is special. Uh,
No, he said
we
we
say, oh yeah,
say
sorry. We
Kanye,
say Kanye West is special, which is kind of a weird way
and
to,
this is him talking
right,
about himself.
real weird way to refer to himself. America needs special people that lead. Bill Clinton? Question mark. Joe Biden? It's not that special. So I guess that's his explanation.
Well, everybody's special except for Joe
Right,
Biden.
right.
But he's trying to get us to believe that he's officially throwing his hat in the ring, even though we've had how many primaries, even though the deadline
Get on the state's
to get
ballots,
on the
right?
ticket, to get on the ballot, to create a new party.
Yeah,
He has a new Gap line coming out, so he's just trying to get
and
some attention. And I really wish that he would see professional help if he's not
right. On top
already.
of the mental help that he's referred to, and we're kind of advocating that he get help with, he, and according to the story, said he contacted. On top of that, he contracted COVID-19 in
COVID.
February, and according to this story, he had chills, he was shaking in the bed, taking hot showers, looking at videos, telling me what I'm supposed to do to get over it, so on and so forth. So that's his explanation as to why he think he'll still be able to get on the ballots even though he's so late because he himself contracted COVID-19. So
What that got to do with
I don't know.
anything?
Maybe they'll give him some.
Does he not know
Maybe
the
they'll give him
rules?
some sort of pass because he got in late. I don't know.
Oh,
I don't know. So at any rate, a lot of people are saying, and what he tried to respond to were saying that the reason why he's doing this is because he's still quote unquote MAGA and down for Trump and believes Trump is special. So the thought is he gets into the race. The people who, were not really enthused about voting for Biden or not really going to vote at all.
just say black
Right.
people.
We're going to move over and vote for Kanye West, which
To
would splinter, in theory, would splinter the Democratic vote as a whole, and it would give Trump the ability to take all of the Republican vote versus Biden and West to split the Democratic / black vote, and Trump will walk into the office. So that's Kanye West doing his brother, his special his fellow dragon energy brother, and get Trump reelected in office by splitting the vote. So I don't think that's the case. I just think this guy, I don't know, like you said,
it's a thing. Like I said, it was announced that he was doing this Gap, whatever he's doing with them. I don't think he got the amount of praise that he wanted from
Possibly.
that, because people, especially Black people, are over him, and a lot of the progressive liberal folks are as well. So I think, because I think he did another interview and said that he's not supporting Trump anymore, and all this kind of stuff. I I'm so over him, but at the same time, I recognize that he does have some mental health issues that he needs to, seek help
Hmm.
with, if he's not already. And it's just one of those things where he goes dormant. You don't hear anything from him. Then he comes back because he has something he wants to sell or something to publish. And he comes with these
Outbursts.
outlandish, you, outbursts, almost temper
Right.
tantrum like. Because I genuinely believe that he's now doing this birthday party stuff is because at the Gap thing was supposed to be so big, it made him a more of a billionaire, or whatever the
Hmm.
case may be, even though he got a PPP loan.
Right. Right.
But you know, whatever from that. But I just think he didn't get the
Buzz.
the high or the rush that he's used to getting from anything he announces. And now he's like, well, let me try
Right.
this and see if this gets their
Right. Right.
attention. And I really think that's what
Yeah.
it
So
is.
again, we'll see what this is. Again, maybe, it's just a publicity stunt and he's not going to actually try to get on the ballot to run for president. If he does, hopefully people recognize game and, because he has
Because it's
followers.
already some celebrities on social media. Yeah, because it's already some celebrities on social media. I'm like, yeah, that's who I'm voting for. Man, I wish my primary hadn't happened because I definitely vote for him.
I guess that's all we can say about that.
And I really think that people will, instead of voting for either one of those two people that nobody's really enthused about voting for, they'll write his name in.
Right.
So,
Kanye West, reportedly the person who has never voted, is running for
and that's what he
president.
said. He's never voted.
Come on, man. That doesn't even.
What can you say? I mean, it's just all you can do is
Kanye shrug.
long Kanye shrug, long Negro sigh, all that rolled into one.
Hmm. Yeah. So, oh well, we'll see. Of course, and like I said, Kim Kardashian, they're not stopping him. They're like, go ahead, go out there and make a fool of
Because it's more
yourself.
publicity for them.
Yep, yep. This is the game plan. So anyway, that is it for the culture. Let's move into the hookup. We like to recap all of the verses, battles that we've seen on Instagram. We like to laugh at, some of the quirks and some of the things that happen during these live battles, and just in general, as everything is kind of going digital and going virtual, we're consuming a lot of online content, and a lot of it, present company not included, hopefully, is trash because of the internet connectivity. Like I said, this is our first time doing video. This is our first time multiple streaming things. So I ain't going
Yeah, and my light kind of went
to,
out.
right. So I ain't going to exclude ourselves from the less than
Yeah.
stellar connectivity. But since a lot of
It will
people,
be better if it's not.
right. But all that to say, if you are interested in going digital and doing more digital content, it's ideal, just in general, it's ideal to have a wired internet connection to your computer if you're like streaming to YouTube, if you're doing Twitch, whatever the case may be. But if you're on your phone, like for instance with Instagram, to where there is no sort of, there's a desktop, there's a website part of Instagram, but all the features and functionality are via the phone. An iPhone specifically doesn't have a Ethernet jack. Well, I was doing some research, just trying to find out, how people are kind of putting these high-end, high-quality um, uh, live feeds together just on their phone. And I think the one of the ways they're doing it is a Lightning to Ethernet adapter. So I found this adapter on Amazon. It ain't cheap. It's like $89 or $99. But the
Hmm.
benefit to it is you can plug this adapter into the bottom of your iPhone, and it's like a little dongle. And in the other end of the dongle is a Ethernet jack that you could then plug into your Ethernet, your internet, your router at home, and that'll give you lightning fast, higher quality streaming capabilities to where you can then go on Instagram, you can go on Periscope, you can go on some of these mobile streaming platforms and have a good video and good audio, especially if you're trying to be an influencer, if you're trying to monetize your streams, if you're trying to monetize your social media. People are starting to get weary and get tired of looking at these weak, whack streams. So if you're trying to put a little bit of effort into your iPhone, going digital, going virtual, definitely check out this Belkin. It's the name of the company is Belkin, and the adapter is Lightning to Ethernet adapter. We'll put this link in Amazon, but like I said, it's not cheap. But I mean, pay the cost to be the boss. If you want
If you're
to,
trying to step up, you're
right,
trying to boss up, then
right,
gotta spend a little cash.
right, definitely. And again, like I said, wired is always better than wireless. And this is a tip for people who are going live on their computers and are doing Wi-Fi. You watch Good Morning America, you watch all these morning news shows, you watch ESPN, and you watch all these shows, and everybody's interviewing all these people from their living room, from their kitchen, and it's not embarrassing, but we're used to a certain level of production, and
Hmm.
you can still do that on your computer and specifically on your phone if you've got the right tools and you've got the right equipment. So if you're trying to invest and you're trying to get yourself out there, and you're especially trying to do it via your phone, via Instagram or whatever the case may be, definitely check out, this Belkin Lightning to Ethernet adapter that will give you high speed, gigabit speed internet to your phone so you can then stream to Instagram or whatever platform you are trying to influence or monetize. So definitely check that out.
Definitely.
So, all right. Other than that, I think we are done for this week. We want to say, thank you for hanging in there with us. Specifically this week, we're trying to do something new. We're trying to go video, we're trying to do streaming in addition to the podcast. So, definitely if you want to support us, you can download, rate, and review us. We're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Google Podcasts, we're on Spotify. Now we're on Twitch, and maybe we'll actually do the video to YouTube. So we're on
We
snobOS.
gotta take a look at it first to
Right.
make sure.
I didn't put that in the notes for the thing to talk about, but I'll just give it a shot. Look, work with us. We're new. We're trying,
We're
so
trying. We're trying something new. This is our first go at it.
right. So you can definitely engage with us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and Twitch and YouTube. We're at snobOS Cast. If you want to leave comments and suggestions, you can do so on the web. We're at snobOS.com. And if you want to send us a comment via email, we're on email at snoboscast@gmail.com. And also, if you want to support the show, if you want to become a snobist, you can support via Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/snoboscast for as little as $5 a month, you have access to the pre-show. You have access to the live taping of our show that we stream to Twitch. We'll also maybe even stream to YouTube as we progress a little bit more. You also have access to our Discord live chat to where you can talk to us during the show. You can give us ideas for show topics, and you can give us show ideas for show names. So definitely, if you want to support on Patreon, you can do that. We want to say thanks to our new snobist. We want to again say thank you to Charles Hall. We want to say thank you to Tom Merritt and the Daily Tech News Show. And we want to say thank you to Ryan Walton. Those are our first inaugural Patreon. So we would definitely want to say thank you for that, because as we add new software, this stuff costs money. So that Patreon donations will definitely go to us beefing up our podcasting and video streaming game. So I want to say thank you to that. And then other than that, I think that is it for this week.
I think so.
All right. Peace.
Bye.